the highest peak that we can reach in humanity before we blow open into that next phase. And because we were aware of this coming, we built something special to be able to house all of our uniqueness, to be able to actualize this final mission.
The energy is incredible.
That's what we say here. Go inside and you'll find us all there.
So I'll first start off by saying that it's very instrumental in our lives to begin to itemize our path. If you can really think about how many things you have to remember every single day, it could become quite a bit. So if I ask you, what did you do last Thursday? How many of you here can tell me what you did just by raise of hand? All right. I cannot tell you what I did last Thursday. I have to either have like an ideology or there's some kind of anchor point. There needs to be an event. And even then, it's kind of tough. What about if I asked you, what did you do on Tuesday on the first week of last month? Anybody? If you raise your hand, I'm gonna need you, because I got some other things you can work on with your big brain and your photographics. Because if you're not rich already, holler at me, because if you have that kind of memory, we could do some things. Okay, so that's only a couple weeks, right? So somehow we get under this impression that we know what's gone on our whole lives, because we kind of give it this overview, which becomes wild because the overview is really summarized in a few high points. And how you would see this on the record, remember the old school vinyl record, is the thick line. You could read when the song was going to change on a record if you knew what you were doing right, for my old schoolers, because the line was thicker. And also for my new schoolers, if you was using DVDs, it had the same phenomenon, but you just had to zoom in a little bit more to see it. But it's that long line, or that long gap, is generally what you remember. Those are the events. So if you saw this as like a meter, it would have been the one that spiked. And that could have been the car accident that, got rid of your pinky and changed your life, or knocked out your front tooth, made you look ugly from there, whatever. That's that point. And then everything else you seem to forget about. And so when we look back at our life, we only see these high points. And what I've discovered over my incessant adventure into consciousness is that not only do we forget how things really went, we even forget things really went. So this is one reason, okay? And also the reason why we do the Timeline Project is because we like developing stuff that has a massive impact. Not just one thing, it serves one purpose. Whatever something does around here, it has to have a multi-dimensional purpose. That way it's worth our time and our energy, because I know some of y'all got stuff to do. So even now, I got a message in which we were saying, hey, I think this Timeline Project is becoming difficult for many of the tribe members. And of course, we put a nice template together. But I totally get it, that even sitting down and taking some time for yourself is one big thing. And then when you start talking about yourself or writing any kind of information about yourself, especially if you have a guideline. Now, if we just left it for you to do it like you want to do it, it probably would look like your Instagram bio. 1,000 of emojis. We wouldn't know anything about you except for, this emoji thing that is going on, right? It's like hashtag vibes, this, but is that really you? So we wouldn't get any play-by-play. So what I'm producing here as truth is the awareness that not only have we somewhat forgot about our past, but we've also rewritten our past. Because as I started digging into my own past and significant events, I even, when writing those events down, realized that I remembered those events different than they actually took place. And it's almost like something had been in my own brain. It's like, wait a minute, that's not what happened. And this was rather interesting too. So we have a way of rewriting events, I guess, in the direction that makes us feel most comfortable. And then we kind of seal it like that's what happened. And I could assume that's also for damage control in our consciousness sometimes. We will rewrite the script on certain things that happen. That's why they always tell you there's two sides of the story. There's your side and then what really happened, right? So this is another thing that was discovered. Also, there seems to be this phenomenon since life is curated, right? So everybody's, got their best picture up with a bunch of airbrush on it or, just swagged out in something, laying across somebody else's Ferrari. I'm not sure, right? But it's just like, I'm going to give you the best version of me right now. If that's the person you're going to meet. Boy, is that deceptive. That's deceptive. And it gets us into trouble time and time again. I noticed this thing with the divine feminine on the planet that as long as you told them what you were about when you first met them, man, it was going to go great from there. But if somehow you had fudged a little bit and you weren't able to hold up with, I don't know, maybe you were trying to be Brian McKnight or something. Maybe you just, you just pouring it on extra thick. And then when the truth comes out, the uncurated aspect of you, then all of a sudden the drama begins, right? Because the fire goes out. Because the fire is lit based on your energy right then and how you feel. So when you start changing your mood because the person's slobbering all out of the side of their mouth or they remove their entire front crown or whatever on you, then, this produces kind of some lackluster results. So wouldn't it be great if we were mature enough to actually say, I'm not really going to enter into any more serious engagement unless this person know who they're dealing with. Also for respect. Sometimes people like to judge you just on how you look. They swear they know where you've been based on how you look, right? So they get this whole idea about you. And then, I don't know, when stuff gets really crazy and the pistols come out, they may be like, whoa, I thought you were the nice. I didn't expect that from you. And it's like, well, maybe you should have read my timeline. I'm just saying, people will get a different idea from you based on how they think you are from what they're seeing. And like they said about this fake Jesus character, what you see is what you wanted to see in him. So it really does become, we kind of look at people for what we want them to be. And we kind of run with that, but we never ask for any manual. So as I said, future goals is when you have enough courage, that's maturity, to get into stuff once people have a full idea of what kind of rodeo they're about to ride on. Because if you can do that, 9 times out of 10, they will not only respect you more, but of course, the results of that engagement will be a lot more enriched because they'll know who they're dealing with. And then if you've been through some stuff, which all of us have, they'll have a bit more respect before they start popping off at the mouth, because it always happens, right? In a relationship, they just forget who you are, right? So that's another reason, but a big one, that also in our lives, for many of us here, we're looking to do something dynamic. We want to work with others now. I mean, there's different fields opening up. We obviously have soul coaching, there's life coaching, there's mentorships, there's motivational speakers. So there's all these new forms of ways of upliftment, but are still services. We have a tendency to put profiles together if we're going to introduce ourselves to someone. And to me, there's no greater asset to have than your own timeline as a perfect introduction for you. Now, I'll give you one last gem on why we're doing this, because of course this timeline could then turn into the curated aspect of your Instagram page if you were allowed to write it, meaning it'd just be all the good stuff, right? And this was originally inspired from something that I was watching on Netflix. I know, guys. They're like, what? The God watches Netflix? Hypocrisy. But you be in there tonight, like knowing that there's nothing in there, but still scrolling through, like you're just gonna find that gem, right? Old Japanese movie or something, right? So I was in something like a battle dome, the thing where, it's like the person who's like an average amateur workout person, and now they got to go against the machine, right? I've always liked that kind of stuff ever since, whatever that first program was. I even used to work out with one of the guys that was on that program. So I saw one like that and I was like, oh snap, they doing it again. Let's see them beat the machine. And so as they were, it was with the Rock, Dwayne or whatever his name is, right? So what got me about this was, so when they were introducing you to these characters, these people that were coming to perform, I kid you not, in about 1 minute and 30 seconds, you're tearing up. Like, this is somebody you know. And by the time the episode was over, it was like, I guess, I never watched the Game of Thrones, but they say they start killing off a bunch of their characters. People start catching feelings about all that. It was like that. It's like when some of my characters was not beating the machine, I just was catching feelings. I was like, let me go take a few breaths, man. This is getting too deep. How have I become so attached to these people? So day 2 rolls around. I'm done watching it, of course, but it gets me again. I'm like, how was, because Jeanette even Stark, I was like, how was y'all in there feeling so much about these people? I said, there's got to be a formula there. So I went back and I started looking at the whole thing. And sure enough, for sure, there was a formula. And this formula basically is how to get someone to really know who you are, really respect you, and even cheer you on by a process that you're taking them through, or that you've gone through with them. So that's what it was like a video timeline, and that's ultimately what the timelines were supposed to become. But I see we're still like at the timeline part because a lot of folks haven't jumped into this. But the aspect of starting this chronological journey of your life begins with this timeline. You could easily do the video timeline after that, but if you try to do the video timeline before that, you'll just be in the reel forever. So this is the outline to a video timeline, and what this outline consists of is what I demarked in this template that I created was how you really tell your story unapologetically and come out, like I said, with everybody on your team, because your story is not over yet. That just so happens to be the thing. And I noticed that what was really getting everybody, including myself, with loving this character they were introducing was the low points. It wasn't the high points. I was strung out on crack for 20 years. Now look at me. This was getting them because that crackhead was in the back like, oh man, damn, somebody can do it. It's just, you catch everybody with that. The other person, oof, crack. And he's in shape. I guess I should be in shape. I should be able to get in shape. I've never been on crack. So what happens is that the person immediately is like, and then also the uncommitted crackhead, meaning the one that smokes the dope but doesn't tell anyone, starts to think, well, shoot, my crack habit is a benefit? It's just basically what I'm saying is that it gets to a point where, and then also, I would never tell anyone that I had crack. How I smoke crack. How brave. I want to be like them. This happens almost subconsciously very fast for most people. This is why most people they say it's like 70% of the population can be hypnotized. And then there's that 30% that can't. And it's because there's like this autonomous system that goes on in the consciousness. And the moment you hit any of those autonomous systems, it already responds before the person even has the opportunity to think about it. So that means that when people see something that they admire, the autonomous side of them says, get that. Link up. Figure that out. Do that. And work that. We're going to work that. So, and that's actually how a lot of this stuff exists now, right? Like everybody's message and everybody's pointers on marketing and all this stuff is just from someone else that they sat in front of and then said, you know what? I'm going to take what they have and I'm going to hone it in, make it mine, and then I'm going to bring it back out and get their results. Right? So these are a variety of aspects of looking into something that I feel like is necessary to one's journey in this progress of not only realizing who they are and staying fresh in that, but also making sure that your past wasn't rewritten, which makes a false future. And that you realize that these things that you may or may not be hiding from everyone are actually your strengths, as long as the end of the story ends well. And then what we're doing here in Sovereignty Mentorship is we're enhancing your life. We're giving you more of the real tools and the real awareness to actually make those changes. So we're not also here judging you about whatever it is that you've gotten yourself into in the skin suit. We're over here in support saying, yeah, wow, that's incredible. And I want to encourage you to explore yourself further. And always remember, 9 times out of 10, even if you bring your timeline and then you dip out and you never say hello to Tribe ever again, we probably will never know who you are. So you won't have to worry about anybody knowing about you. So this is a safe space where you have motivation to come and introduce who you are, to get more comfortable with finally bringing that into your space if you're not doing that already with those that are around you, because you will have at least this to actually show them the next time you meet somebody new.